Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I would like to talk about the function of myth. What is a myth? How different is a myth from a story? Do we need myths? Do I, as an individual, need an overarching myth? Do we, as a community, need a myth? Let's try to break these questions down. First, what is a myth? There are a number of answers to this question. First, a myth is a story. That is, it's a kind of story. Not all stories are myths, but all myths are stories. Second, a myth is true. That is, it's true, but not in the same way the sentence, "the cat lay on the mat," is true. That said, I would agree with Joseph Campbell that they have to do with the deep truths of human experience. I think the following is deeply true, and this is a quotation. "Mythology is not a lie. Mythology is poetry. It is metaphorical. It has been well said that mythology is the penumbulate truth. Penumbulate because the ultimate cannot be put into words. It is beyond words, beyond images. Mythology pitches the mind beyond that run to what can be known but not told." Third, a myth is more than a story. Bill Moyers expressed this idea when he was in conversation with Joseph Campbell. He said, "Myths are stories of the search by men and women through the ages for meaning, for significance, to make life signify, to touch the eternal, to understand the mysterious, to find out who we are." Joseph Campbell replied, "Yes, and myths are clues to the spiritual potentialities of the human life. A myth is not the search for meaning, it is the experience of meaning." Fourth, myths are meant to be shared. They have a communal aspect. By the way, one of the articles that I'm using in this video is Perspectives on Myths and Sacred Texts, and I'm leaving the URL to it in the description. As the author of that article notes, one indication that myths have a deeper substrate, that they latch onto deeper truths, is their universality. The author writes, "Similar myths pop up again and again in disparate cultures, and cultures widely removed from each other." And I'm going to slaughter this name. Provost notes that almost every culture has a myth about a flood. Joseph Campbell explains this when he wrote that the human psyche is essentially the same all over the world. It is out of this common ground that have come what some have called archetypes. It is archetypes that form the substrate, the common ideas of myths. In this context, I think it's interesting what Jeanette Winterson wrote. What the myths say is that you have to be the hero of your own life. You're the one who has to take charge of who you are. You're the one who has to take control. And also, you're the one who can bring something to the community. I really like that. Okay, so this is the second part. That was all part one. This is part two. Myths help us make sense of the world. We are just one person with one lifetime. Myths contain the distilled wisdom of generations. Consequently, we don't have to try and learn it all on our own. Through reading and listening to myths, we can benefit from the knowledge of humanity they impart. Quote, "And it is in our ancient myths that many writers find the core of the human struggle to make sense of the world and to find one's role. In short, a roadmap to the human psyche." Joseph Campbell held that these bits of information from ancient times, these myths, have to do with the themes that have supported man's life, built civilizations, informed regions over the millennia. They have to do with deep inner problems, inner mysteries, inner thresholds of passage, and if you don't know what the guide signs are along the way, you have to work it out for yourself. I can understand why Joseph Campbell felt that myths must be kept alive, and that the people who can keep myths alive are artists, such as writers. Here's another quotation from Jeanette Winterson. She writes, "There is the sense in which you will always steal and take for yourself the things that you need, but then you also bring them back into the light. You dust them down and then you put them out again for people to find in a different way. Myths need to stay fluid. They need to keep moving. They need to be dynamic. And that's why we can go on retelling them, so that what is valuable is passed on from generation to generation across time through cultures." Let's come back to the question I posed. What is the goal of storytelling, and do we need stories to flourish? Perhaps to the extent to which a story participates in the structure or being of myth, to the extent we are retelling a mythic theme, our story will have power not only to entertain, but to connect with something deeper. That is, it will have the ability to not just entertain, but also to nourish. The author of the article writes, Myths have always served not only to enlighten the individual, but to tie entire communities together by expressing the values and beliefs at the heart of society and reaffirming individuals' links to one another. In an important sense, myths are the collective symbolic history of cultures, the repositories of their deepest ideals and aspirations. I'll close with this. Willpower writes, "A myth is a story that holds in it the values and the culture and the rhythm and the vibrations of a people." Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe, and good writing.